Hello, everyone, and welcome to Third Wave's presentation titled Optimizing the Global Supply Chain for Purchase to Receipt. This is going to be the first in a series of webinars focused on optimizing the global supply chain, where the focus will be on the overall process, why it's important to have a holistic view of it, and how you can start thinking about the supply chain at your organization. We are aiming for this webinar to be about 60 minutes, but we might go a little bit over if need be. It is being recorded, and the recording and slides will be emailed to you as usual in the coming days. There will be time for questions towards the end of the presentation, so please write your questions in the dialog box, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can. Those questions that we cannot get to will be answered in a follow-up email. Now, before I turn it over to our speaker, Ned Blinick, as the Director of Sales for Third Wave, I would be a little remiss if I didn't quickly plug Third Wave and how we help companies. Third Wave is a software platform that simplifies the global supply chain. Third Wave enables highly effective management of a company's global supply chain by aggregating and centralizing data from the various actors within it, the ERP, suppliers, freight forwarders and carriers, warehouses, and customs brokers. Third Wave represents a dramatic leap forward in the management of the global supply chain. Platforms have historically been expensive to acquire and even more expensive and complicated to implement, making it only accessible to very large organizations. Third Wave is focused on making its leading industry tools accessible to everyone, including companies towards the smaller end of the spectrum with fast implementation times and low subscription costs. While we are committed to helping our customers achieve excellence as it pertains to global trade, we are equally committed to educating the global trade community. We believe that companies, big and small, should be striving towards excellence, and it is our job to help them envision it and push them to realize it, regardless of whether or not they are using Third Wave. Now, let's get to the webinar. Ned Blinick has been involved in managing the global supply chain for his whole professional career, spanning more than 5 decades. He has held positions of executive leadership for importing and distribution companies, and most recently has led the visioning of the Third Wave platform as Chief Product Officer. He has been asked to speak at many conferences, including CSCMP, the Supply Chain Summit, and the National Defense University in Washington, D.C., to name but a few. He has a deep understanding of what it takes to build world-class supply chains. We're really looking forward to this talk, so without further ado, let me turn it over to Ned.
Thanks, Grant, and thanks for giving people that insight that I've been involved for 5 decades, so you get an idea as to my age, although my picture really doesn't hide that. I want to thank everybody for attending, and we hope that this next hour will be of value to all of you. This topic of optimizing the global supply chain and the purchase to receipt component of it has been a core area of focus for Third Wave since its inception 30 years ago. The functions in the procure to receipt process are as important to optimal corporate performance as the more celebrated sales or inventory management functions. Purchase to receipt is often given short shrift because where it sits relative to the end customer and the fulfillment activity. In almost all organizations, the customer is the focus, and solutions that improve the customer experience get most of the attention and investment. However, we believe that the purchase to receipt functions in global trade are vital activities that have significant impact on the overall performance of the organization. So the purpose of this webinar is really to talk about purchase to receipt and how it can be a real driver for improvement within the organization, why it currently fails to deliver on its full potential, and finally, what an optimal purchase to receipt capability might look like. As part of the journey, we will look at why ERP solutions most often fail to deliver an optimal purchase to receipt capability, particularly from an international trading perspective. We will then discuss the reasons that integration of functions and information are critical elements that support the purchase to receipt capability, and how without that integration, purchase to receipt will always remain sub-optimized, and so will overall corporate performance. And finally, we will look at what an optimal P to R solution looks like.